I am sure you've heard the saying that your network is your net worth. But for most of us, networking is hard work, unpleasant work. In this episode, I interviewed Jason Levin, who talks about how to make networking easy, pleasant, and he uses social science for this approach. I highly recommend that you tune in and listen to this episode as he explains how highly productive, high net worth attorneys do networking with ease. Hi there. I have a small but really meaningful favor to ask you. I watch at the stats on our YouTube channel and Spotify channel, wherever most people listen and watch our podcast. And I see that over 80% of everybody who listens to it regularly is not a subscriber. I'm asking you to subscribe to this channel. And the reason for that is my mission and the mission of my team is to help as many small law firm owners to learn how to transform their law firms into better businesses, and so they in turn enjoy better lives. When you hit subscribe button, you tell these platforms that this is content worth listening, worth viewing, and they in turn will show it to many other small law firm owners and hopefully help me fulfill our mission of helping them create a better business and enjoy better lives. So would you please do me this favor? It would mean the world to me, and hit the subscribe button. And my promise to you is that I will continue to work hard at creating good content with practical ideas that help you and your teams grow better law firms. Thank you. Welcome to another GLF podcast episode. I have an amazing guest with me here today. Jason Levin is a keynote speaker, a published author, and an expert on the art of staying in touch, something that we all know we need to do, but we don't. Scott, welcome to the show.
Sasha, thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
And I apologize. I think I just called you Scott. I meant to call you Jason.
Call me Scott, but that's okay. Yeah. So just for the record, it's Jason and my last name. So there's two ways to pronounce my last name. You said Jason Levin.
Yep.
All the wonderful Levins are from Philadelphia. The Levins are from New York City. So I was born in Brooklyn, so I'm 11. But all my Levin friends in Philly, I say hello and I acknowledge. So.
It's good to have you here, Jason.
Pleasure. Thank you, Sasha.
So a few years ago, you published a book that is focused on relationship to infinity, which I found to be a fascinating subject. We know that in the world of professional services, more so than anywhere else, your network is your net worth. Yet, most of us in professional services and people who manage their businesses, such as law firms, are quite terrible at networking, hate the word. Many people hate the word and are even worse at maintaining their network. What is the key to being effective at staying in touch without making it feel so incredibly fake, like you're trying to get something out of that staying in touch?
It's exactly the reason I wrote the book, that the perception of the word networking in and of itself is making people feel like they need to take a shower even before they start. And, as I've, often joke, I'm an attorney by marriage. And so words matter. So we need to take the ing off of the word first to first define what a network is. And then if you actually get to the core definition of what a network is, then you can add the ing back on and actually better understand what a networking activity is, which is really keeping in touch. On the network side, it's amazing to me that the legal community is literally going out of its way to ignore the 60 years of academic research that exists on network theory. These are social scientists and academics that are writing white papers on how people interact and pass in information. And really the level one is we don't reflect on the people that we already know. We don't actually take the time to put into, we don't do a calendar block, right? We'll call it client development, we'll call it business development, but we actually don't take an intention to actually Say, you know what? At this time last year, who was I actually interacting with? Who do I like? What matters was I working on? Who referred me to work? Who was kind to me? And even in that act itself, allows for you to understand that there are people that have helped you along the way. So we don't actually understand the people in our network because we're not using, one, the time, or two, for me, the understanding of the fact that it's not, Sasha, the people that are very, very close to you that are going to be helpful in your legal practice. It's actually two different types of people, and the social science proved this: weak ties and dormant ties. So I'm going to explain both. Weak ties are people that are acquaintances. These are your friends from college and law school. These are the folks that you might have met at a conference. You might have had some type of interaction. There's a whole set of layers of weak ties in our universe that we can connect and reconnect with. Dormant ties are people we lose touch with. So Sasha, that client that you had from 5 years ago that was really helpful, they've just gone dormant. It's not that interaction is over. It's just that you're not in touch. And so when we think about our network and our network opportunity, one, we don't take the time. And then two, we don't think about the who. And so too often we're looking at, I need to reach out to this friend, which is great, or a family member. But how about the casual, how are you doing with that client that you worked with, or that close law school classmate that you had a study group with, to see how they are doing? And the more that we actually lean into, because attorneys care about time, if you actually follow the social science on the word network, dormant ties, weak ties, networking becomes a lot clearer on how you use your time. So it's literally 4 quadrants: your current strong ties, the current people that you're in touch with, and then that goes from current strong ties to dormant strong ties. So imagine, Sasha, you have a calendar block every week. You know what? Let me review a couple of people that I worked with a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, and actually see how they were doing. Maybe you had a notes field to remind yourself of not only the legal issues they were going through, but also them as a human being. And there is then the opportunity for all of us to actually fully understand where our network is and what we can be doing. And so that's why we don't like networking. It's fake. It's transactional. But if you go through the social science lens, networking is keeping in touch.
So human nature is such that we choose the path of least resistance.
Sure.
And we want to stay in our comfort zone. And our common thread, common comfort zone is doing what we do every day, something that we're really good at. So attorneys tend to gravitate toward doing legal work, not staying in touch with former clients, associates, acquaintances. But there is an example that I thought of as you were speaking about. 8 months ago, I had a gentleman on this very podcast. He was a high-profile attorney from the state of Florida. And most of his cases he does complex cases. Most of them are in the 8, and some, they had a couple of verdicts in the 9-figure range. And I asked him, how did you land those cases? And he told me, and mind you, I operate a marketing company. He said, I never marketed anything. I never spent a dime on advertising. He is now in his mid-50s, perhaps late 50s. He said, what I have always done was I did great work, always. No stone unturned. And I spent time with the people I liked. And I made sure that my relationships flourished. The 9-figure case that I got came from Florida's Bar Association president, who I've known for years. He came to me and he said, I trust you to handle this very complex matter. And as he was handling that matter, so many other very large volume cases came his way. His network truly determined his very, very high net worth.
And what I love in that example, Sasha, is that it's actually someone in an association that referred back to him.
Correct.
And that's it's the false choice that I think a lot of attorneys make when they often say to me, Jason, what do I think of networking events? And for me, networking events is not about the approach. If we're talking about time and investment of time, then it's what are the associations that are worthy of your time, and how can you park yourself there for the duration of time? And so that you're thinking through, as this wonderful example you just brought up, that it was the head of a bar association that made the referral. And that's exactly the opportunity for so many, is just to say, you know what, where can I find my peers? Where can I find the people that are doing things that are similar to me, and take a leadership role? For me, the best opportunity to amplify and grow your network, get on a committee, get on a bar association executive committee, show your work, show your values and your ethics to others. That's how you use your time. And it rings true time and time again. That's what the association community is there for, is to bring people together to talk about issues of the day. It's not about the event itself. It's the before and the after that's the more important. So I love that example, Sasha.
It is a truly outstanding example. As it is rare, and it just proves the point. It just absolutely proves the point. Aside from that investment of time into an association, group of peers, taking a leadership role, actually being proactive. Any other good examples? Like if you and I were attorneys talking, like where would you tell me to go and be part of for the duration of time? I loved what you just said, the duration of time. Don't think about a networking event here or a networking event there, because that stuff rarely works.
No.
Like you can do hit and run and expect good outcomes out of it.
No. Half the time I'm telling attorneys, stay home. Like, don't go.
Don't go.
Don't go.
Yeah. So this is when it comes to like that once a year annual event.
Right. Yeah. The once a year annual event is fine. But for me, if you're, whether it's an American Bar Association or a state bar association or city bar, and then like the subcommittee. So, you might be a litigator on this, or you might be, you want to hang out with the different types of people that are doing that work, and showing that, you are investing in that community. I think the second piece that a lot of attorneys overthink, and it's this word that people get a little uncomfortable with, is CRM, customer relationship management, or contact management. And oftentimes I'm just like, all right, just open an Excel file if you want to get started. Sasha, you want to talk about love language? For me, everything uploads or downloads to an Excel file. So if you're starting with an Excel file, at least you have a place to go. Mm-hmm. And really, people don't know where to start. It's like, we'll start with the people that have already trusted you. And that's where you can begin. And I think the social science actually proves this. We underestimate our ability to have a favorable impact on someone else. So actually, people want to be reminded that they actually matter, right? And so here's my tip. You have your Excel file, you've got 20 people you work with. The human mind loves hearing the following: I still remember when, or I thought of you because. And it doesn't matter if it's a text, a direct message, a written letter, an email. It is founded in the social science around the concept of positive reminiscence. And so often attorneys don't know what to say. Share a personal memory of that interaction that you had with that person and that you still remember. And that is a daily activity you can get into just by reminding yourself, you know what, all right, if I'm looking at Monday to Friday and you've got your calendar invite, here are the 5 people I want to reconnect with or letting them know I'm thinking of them. 5 or 10 minutes each day. All right, I'm going to pick this client from 2 years ago. I'm going to pick that referral source from 3 years ago. I'm going to pick that law school classmate. You begin to choose and then share a little bit that you're just thinking of others. So
here's what I really appreciate about what you just said. You said make it a daily routine. And I think of it, this should be part of your work. Like budget for it on your calendar. And if, as you listen to this, you're like, you want me to maintain relationships as part of my work? And yeah, I absolutely do expect you to do that. If you want to grow or maintain that network and make sure that in time your network becomes a large part of your net worth, this is work. I think of an example of an interview I read in Success Magazine about 15 years ago with Brian Foster. At least at that time. I don't know if he still is, but at that time, he was the most winning Emmy producer, music producer out there. I think at the time he had something like 15 Emmys to his name. And when he was interviewed by Darren Hardy, who is a mentor and a friend, he was asked, how do you come up with hits? He's like, it's just work. People think that you have to have a muse. You have to have inspiration to write a hit. And he's like, no, I get up in the morning and there are certain work hours that I have. I sit down and I write music. And I write a lot more crap that actually doesn't go anywhere than good stuff. But it's just part of work. This is how you get to 15 Emmys. So yeah, budgeting 5, 10, 15 minutes toward maintaining your network, your relationships, it's just part of work. And it's easy.
And what you're describing, attorneys already understand the concept of versioning a document, right?
No.
On document management, V1, V2, V3, V4. Yeah. All you're doing in what you're describing is the same type of versioning. And you think about it, the first time you write the document, it is garbage. But the more you edit and the more effort you put in, the 100th time that you've worked on that particular document, you have become a lot more adept at it. And it's these small increments that allow for you to version how you want to do things. That's exactly it. We're all versioning, Sasha.
We're all versioning. Today, and we're recording this mid-March of 2025, it's easier than ever to write a nice email. If you don't know how to put it and don't want to spend very much time on it, talk to Gemini, which is Google's AI, or ChatGPT, and tell them the story that you want to mention in a short email. Hey, Bob, I was just thinking of whatever was that event. Hope you're doing well. I'm not asking for anything in those emails. You're just recalling a memory, an event, an experience that you shared with that person, right?
Exactly. And as you do that, you can also remind yourself of where you met people at certain places. So, for example, you might have met them at a local state bar conference that you're going to be attending the following year. And you might have in your contact management system from the year before all the people that you had met at that conference. Maybe you put 6 weeks in advance of the time you're going to be attending the same conference and reach out to people. Are you going to be going? So that you actually don't show up without not knowing anyone, but actually asking people if they're going back. And the fun part is that half the time they are, you get to see them, half the time you don't, but you were thinking of them, and maybe you might have another conversation outside of that conference entirely.
You making it sound like it's very, very, very easy, but work, which I really like.
It's deliberate.
It's deliberate.
It's deliberate. It's working off the assumption I will forget and the other person will forget. And it's forgiving both of ourselves that might happen. And so too often we're worried about the wrong things. We're worried about how we're going to act in an event. We're worried about how the transactional approach of what it might be to go network somewhere, when we really should be worried about how can we actually set up a process for ourselves where we can just continue to remind ourselves of the people that have been good to us. And if we can be deliberate in that sense, then our time becomes a lot easier. And as a former consumer marketer for Unilever, I care about buying decisions. And when you think about a buying decision, it doesn't happen in the first interaction. It usually takes a multitude of interactions with a multitude set of things.
Sure.
And so too often, who's going to hire you will not likely happen in that first conversation. And too often, I think attorneys hide the fact that they're human beings with interests and hobbies and a story. And one of my favorites recently was, I'm working with this senior lawyer. They're about to go into a conversation with, big pitch meeting. The pitch ended early because the potential client needed to leave early because their dog needed to get to the vet immediately. Right? So 2 weeks later, they go back and pitch. I had said to this wonderful attorney, ask them about the dog. And also, I want you to ask about the dog's name. Just before you start. Turns out, dog's fine. And secondly, the client names their dogs according to Greek mythology. Just so happened, that attorney did an undergrad in classics. And they had a 15-minute conversation on Greek gods and goddesses. They got the work. Not because they were the best, but they connected with the human being in front of them. They asked a question. They let that person respond. And they cared about that human being. And that's allowing people to buy instead of selling.
This is such a good point to expand on. In a world where there are so many people who are actually good at what you do, oftentimes we do not choose the best provider because it is impossible to measure who is objectively the best. Thus, we will choose someone who we feel a connection with.
And the best way, Sasha, to feel a connection is to ask a question and to wait for that response and then actually respond to what that person said. And that's conversation.
Stay in touch. Be conversational. Find common grounds, common interests.
Exactly. People hire people. And people hire people they like. And I think too often attorneys wish, as do I, we all want to wish that we're hired on our merits, on how good we are. But you're ignoring the fact that your client is coming to you at a moment in time where they're entirely irrational. And how they feel matters.
Mm-hmm.
So it is your business to also make them feel comfortable. And the best way to make people feel comfortable is just ask them questions.
Yeah, I now want to expand on people doing business with people who they know, like, and trust. Now we're going to add one more word to it. People do business with the people who they know, remember, like, and trust.
Right.
Because they may know you, but if you haven't been in touch the last 5, 7, 10, 11, 12 years, they know you. Maybe they like you. They probably trust you. They just don't remember you.
They don't remember you. And so there's all this research around staying top of mind. What's the role of staying top of mind? And that's, a way for so many wonderful attorneys to continue to grow their practices is just to remind the people that they've already worked with, they're still there.
Makes great sense. Jason, most of this, if not all of this and so much more, is covered in your book, Relationships to Infinity.
Correct.
It is available on Amazon.
Correct.
For a nonfiction book, in this space, it has tremendous number of positive reviews, well over 100, which is rare for this type of book. Congratulations on that success.
Thank you.
As you're listening to this or as you're watching this podcast, I highly recommend that you go to Amazon and grab the book. And if people want to connect with you and want to ask you, can you help me create more of net worth out of my network? What's the best way to connect with you?
They can go to my website, which is readysetlaunch.net. They can reach out to me on LinkedIn, just Jason Levin, Ready, Set, Launch. And I would be happy to have a conversation and listen to what they're trying to figure out.
Love it. Thanks so much, Jason.
Thank you, Sasha. I appreciate you. Keep in touch.